So, hi team, hello, welcome. I was just saying to the guys before I hit record, I am back. I am a wife. Adam is a husband. Thank you so much for all your lovely messages and all your well wishes. It's crazy. It's crazy to be married. What a crazy thing. I've got a wedding ring on, but we had the most amazing time. And thank you so much for all the lovely messages. But this week, I want to talk to you about meal prep. Like I said last week, I always try to make these calls based off of the conversations I have with some of you guys or most of you guys in the program, what I think is most useful. And I've talked to a lot of you guys about meal prep recently, about why it's important. I want to dive into this today, but I want to go through some misconceptions about meal prep, hopefully get you guys to see that no matter your schedule, no matter your circumstances, you will be able to prep food. And there's lots of different ways that you can do it. It's not necessarily the Tupperware prepping 7 meals all 7 days of the week as much as you think. So let's dive in. First things first, so I want to teach you how to make healthy eating easier, quicker, and more consistent, and to get you to stop relying on willpower when you're hungry, to really help you with that. Because when you're hungry, it's much harder to make good choices and much harder to make good decisions. So this will help you with all of that. So I want to talk to you first about why meal prep is such a game changer. Most people don't struggle with nutrition when they're sat down with lots of time, all the time in the world with plenty of time to think. We struggle with food and we struggle with meal prepping when we're absolutely starving after a full day at work, we're knackered, we've had a crap night's sleep, or we've just had a crazy week. There's nothing in the fridge, rushing in between commitments. I know there are so many of you guys here that are parents, so you get home from work and then it's I'm taking the kids to after school activities, I'm taking the kids here, taking the kids there, picking them up from here, picking them up from there, rushing between all your commitments, or everyone else around you is ordering a takeaway. Meal prep is such a game changer because it removes the decision making and removes decision fatigue before you're even hungry. And this is why it's so important. If I want you guys to take one thing away from this call, it is that meal prepping is going to change the game for you and make this process so much easier. And I want to show you how. So, like I said, meal prep doesn't have to mean eating the same meal all week. Believe me, I find that incredibly dull. When I first started going into the gym, was like, well, I'm going to meal prep, and this is before I was vegan. So I was like, well, it will be my chicken, broccoli, and rice, and I'd cook chicken, broccoli, and rice, 7 portions of it, and then it'd get to day 4, and I would be so bored eating it, and I'd think, is this actually my life? Is this what I have to do if I want to be in shape and want to look after myself? You do not have to do that, and if it was the case, I would not meal prep. I love my food way too much, so you don't have to either. Meal prep it can mean cooking full meals in advance if that's what you like to do and if you have the time. It can also mean just prepping some ingredients, portioning out some snacks, having some easy foods or some convenience foods ready to grab, or just knowing what you're eating before the day starts. You do not need to be that person that has 7 identical Tupperware boxes if you don't want to and if that doesn't fit with your lifestyle. If that works and if you love it, then awesome, but you don't have to do that. And we personally don't really do that either. So there are 3 levels of meal prep that I want to take you through. Level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 1 is your most, I suppose, time-consuming, intense way of meal prepping. So this is you cooking meals in batches, and I mean full-on meals. Like I said, me when I was 20 doing my little chicken, rice, and veg and being absolutely miserable. It can be if you batch cook a chili and you serve it with potatoes, or it could be curry and rice. Prepping the full thing, putting it into Tupperware, keeping it in the fridge, ready for you to grab and go throughout the week. That's level 1, and that's the most intense one. But there are other ways. Level 2 is less intense, ingredient prep. So you prepare the components separately. So rather than prepping full meals flat out, maybe you cook up a few different protein sources. Maybe you whack some chicken in the oven, you do some fish in the air fryer, you have some Greek yogurt in there, and like you do 3 portions of that. The same for your carbs. Maybe you cook up some pasta and leave it, or some rice, or some potatoes, or you have some wraps or some bread ready to go. Same with your veg. Maybe you peel some veg or cut it up pre-portioned, ready to go. And then what you do is rather than doing full meals, you build different meals and you sort of customize your meals throughout the week. That's level 2. Level 3 is your least time consuming, and this is convenience prep. This is using foods that require almost no preparation. Some examples, obviously, this is not an exhaustive list. Microwave rice or microwave lentils, anything microwavable. Even microwave meals, like guys, we say microwave meals are like terrible for you and the worst thing you could eat. There actually are some out there that are pretty good. If you go to Aldi and you get their high protein meal preps, they are actually quite low in salt, not too high in trans fat. They are actually quite high protein and quite macro friendly when you're trying to lose weight. So even some microwave meals, if you're really pushed for time, can be a shout. Aldi is your place to go for that. Frozen veg, frozen berries, frozen fruit you can keep in the freezer. Pre-cooked chicken that you've picked up from that deli counter in the supermarket. Bags of salad that you don't have to chop. Tinned tuna, Greek yogurt, fruit. All of that is just stuff that you don't have to prep. You chuck it in the fridge, keep it, and have it on the go. All three of these methods count as meal prep. So when I say you do not have to be that person that has identical Tupperware that is trying to be a chef, thinking of perfect recipes for all three of your meals to have throughout the week, you definitely don't have to do that. I would say for me, I probably do mostly level two. I very rarely do level one. Sometimes I might do in the winter, for example, we often get the slow cooker out. I might prep like, I say Adam might prep like a chili or a curry or something to have for lunch during the week, but we very rarely do that. Very often, what we're doing is level two, and sometimes even level three. So you don't have to do that. The 20-minute prep, big misconception and big objections I always hear to cooking to meal prepping is I don't have the time. I don't have hours to spend. You do not have to spend your entire Sunday or your entire day off of work cooking. It can take you 20 minutes. Set a timer for 20 minutes. Sometimes if we don't give ourselves a strict time, a task takes as long as it takes. If you set no time, a task could take you 3 hours, or if you say, I only have 20 minutes or I only have 30 minutes, it can still take you the same amount of time and you'll still get it done. But set a time for 20 minutes. During those 20 minutes, choose your protein sources and grab them in. Choose your carbs, prepare some veg, portion some snacks. If you've done the snacks and the veg, you can either like put some carbs in the oven to prep them or put your protein in the air fryer or on the hob, whatever it is. And then check what meals you'll need for the next few days. Even a very small amount of preparation like that will take you 20 minutes will make the rest of your week so much easier. And it really can be that simple. What if you have absolutely no time? If you're someone that's sat there that's like, I have zero time, I have a full-time job, I've got three kids, I do all these after-school activities, I'm then back to back on weekends. If you actually are very limited on time, don't meal prep, then do meal assembly instead. Keep your quick foods available. So your proteins, pre-cooked chicken, eggs, tuna, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, whatever it might be. Then grab your easy carbs in, microwave rice, wraps, potatoes, bread. You can even get pre-cooked potatoes if you have zero time. Fruit and veg, frozen veg that you can keep in the freezer that never goes off. Salad bags, frozen berries as well, pre-cut fruit. Obviously, when you get pre-cut, pre-chopped stuff, it can be a little bit more expensive, but then the payoff is that you save lots of time. If you buy in that stuff and have that mentality, you can have a balanced meal that is predominantly whole food still, packed with nutrition, packed with protein, packed with fiber. You can have it in 5 minutes. It really is possible if you are willing to do just a little bit of organization ahead of time. And you can do it if you genuinely have no time. But what I will say is often people tell me that they've got no time and they still have 30 minutes a week. Build your own meals with the plate method. I've talked about the plate method a lot before, but for some of you guys that are newer, you might not have heard this before. So when you're not fully tracking out a whole meal or planning a whole meal, when it comes to building your meals, if you're customizing them, use this plate method as a simple guide. So first of all, I want you to fill half your plate with a protein source, a lean protein source, whether that's chicken or turkey or tuna, or if you're a veggie or a vegan like me, if it's tofu or tempeh or seitan or whatever it might be. I want you to fill half your plate with that. Then an absolute minimum, fill a quarter of your plate with some fruit or some veg. Just pile it on top. Fruit, veg, super low calorie, lots of volume, high volume eating, which is going to keep you as full as possible for as long as possible. Add that to at least a minimum a quarter of your plate. Then another quarter of your plate, put some carbs on there. Whether it's oats or bread or a wrap or pasta or rice or potatoes, whatever it might be, add that in. Then just add in a sensible portion of fat. I normally say like around about a quarter of your plate. That can be avocado, olive oil, cheese, nuts, nut butters, or some sort of dressing. Just bear in mind that if you're prepping things like the carbs or the protein sources, if you use some oil, some cooking oils, that counts as your fat source as well. But make sure you've got a bit of that on your plate too. This plate method that is so simple, that is visual, that you can build out, gives you a balanced, filling meal without having to overthink it. And that is what this is all about. It doesn't have to be rocket science. Don't forget flavor. Quite a lot of people think that because they're meal prepping, it means they have to eat stuff that's really boring, that tastes bland and gets the job done. It doesn't have to mean bland food. Believe me, I love food. Adam and I love food so much. We just had our wedding and people were coming away from the wedding being like, I can't believe how much food there is. Like, we're absolutely stuffed. Pretty much all of our wedding budget went on food. We are such big foodies. We would not be coaches and we would not be in the fitness space if it meant that our food had to be boring. It can be flavorful and exciting, even though you're trying to lose weight. The hacks for this, use different seasonings and alternate out your seasonings and use what you and change what you use. One week you might use like curry powder, then it might be fajita seasoning, then it might be like harissa seasoning. Um, it might be loads of different things. You can buy like those Mexican spice blends. Right now, literally, Adam is downstairs cooking our dinner, and we get those Maggie bags. They're like they come with a seasoning on the bottom. It's all pre-blended and put together, and then a plastic, and then like a little bag that goes in the oven. And you literally just shove in whatever you're having. Like tonight, we're gonna have seitan because we're vegan. Seitan, veg, loads of veg in there, mushrooms, peppers, like broccoli, all that sort of stuff. We're gonna chuck all of that in a bag, put the seasoning in there, a little bit of oil, wrap it up, shove it in the oven, and then we're gonna have that with potatoes. So easy. That sort of stuff helps to keep food really exciting. Adding in some sauces and tracking them and making sure that they're light as well. Adding in a little bit of things like sriracha or hot sauce or mayo or ketchup, like make sure you weigh them and make sure you track them, of course, but adding in that stuff helps to keep food a bit exciting, especially when you're losing weight. Change up your cooking methods as well. One week you might cook something in an air fryer, then you might put it in the oven. As it's summertime, maybe you'll cook something on a barbecue one week. Stir fry, slow cooker. That actually really changes the flavor and really feels like you're having reinvented new meals every time, and it's so simple to use. Same ingredients, but not the same meal, different all the time. And that is a really big hack to think of when you're meal prepping as well. So I want you guys to really think of the mix and match system when it comes to meal prepping as well. So instead of preparing one meal for the entire week, if that's something that you really don't enjoy doing, instead think of preparing two sources of protein, two sources of carbs, 2 to 3 portions of fruit and veg, and then mix them up differently. Here's an example of that. So let's say you prep those things. You can then have chicken, rice, and stir fry veg one night. Then you could have chicken, potatoes, and broccoli. Then the next day, you could have chicken wrap with salad. This is the same prep with no time taken up at all. You're not individually prepping all these things for different meals. It's the same ingredients, but you're having completely different meals. And that's how you can mix and match and have that system in place. Make sure that you meal prep for the week ahead. I know that all of you lead busy lives. Like, believe me, even though we obviously are fitness coaches and we are in the fitness space for our careers, we're super busy as well. Like, we're at our laptops all the time, we work all day. So I understand that you guys are busy, and I know lots of you guys have children, you lead very busy lives. But even so, even if you can carve out 20 minutes on a day off, meal prep for the week ahead, before you go to the shops, ask, what meals do I actually need this week? What do I actually need? Look at your work schedule, look at your training days, look at any social events you have coming up, look at any meals out, the days you're going to be at home. Don't bother prepping 5 lunches if you're eating out twice. Plan around your actual life and take that time to be willing to think ahead and be organized and think, what do I actually need to buy? And when Adam and I, when one of us is in a calorie deficit, and to be honest, most of the time anyway, we buy basically the same food shop every week. It very rarely changes. We buy very similar things because we have that mix and match system that we do. We change up the seasonings, we change how we cook things. Because we're busy, we don't want to spend too much time cooking in the week. We keep things super simple at home. We think, what have we got coming up next week? How many meals do we actually need? We go out and we buy very similar things, and you can do that. Now, pre-tracking your meals. An amazing thing about meal prepping means that you can then start to pre-track your food. And this is just a match made in heaven, meal prepping and pre-tracking. What I mean by pre-tracking is rather than eating a meal and then logging it after each time, once you've done meal prep, you can then pre-log food before your day starts. If you know what you're having, you know what you're cooking, you can then log your food beforehand. And I always recommend to pre-track. And I recommend to do it either when you're having your breakfast in the morning or your morning coffee or whatever it might be. When you have 5 minutes in the morning to yourself, whether that's after you've dropped off the kids to school and you've got to work and you're sat down to have your breakfast before you start, or even if it's just you've got up in the morning, you're having a morning coffee. If you've done a bit of meal prep, log your food. If you know what you're having for breakfast and lunch, take that 5 minutes to start your day, log them both, and then you can spend the rest of your day not thinking about it. Because you now know how many calories it's got, you know how much protein you're getting, and you know how much room you have for the rest of your day. So even if you don't cook all your dinners, maybe you come home at night and you cook dinner on the go, you've smashed your breakfast and smashed your lunch, you've spent 5 minutes tracking that, and then you don't have to think about it for the rest of the day, and then you just have to sort dinner out. So when people say to me, tracking is ages, it takes ages, it's monotonous, it's boring, it feels too overwhelming, often the bottleneck is that these people are not doing any meal prep at all. So that's the switch. You now need to make sure that you spend at least 20 minutes a week prepping some protein sources and getting some fruit and veg in, at least, to then make tracking so much easier as a byproduct. And you're not guessing, which is key when you're trying to lose weight. One thing I get asked a lot that I wanted to touch on as well is how do you track batch cooked meals into MyFitnessPal? A lot of people say that it's confusing, doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to go through this with you as well. So batch cooking is not complicated to track and doesn't need to be. The easiest thing to do is to track it by how many servings. So let's say, for example, I've just used making a chili as an example. You've batch cooked chili. What you need to do is put all of the ingredients that you use into MyFitnessPal. Obviously, don't worry about tracking leafy greens, salad leaves. Don't worry about tracking herbs and spices, but everything else, track it. Weigh everything before you cook it. Always weigh food before it's cooked because otherwise it weighs differently. Weigh it out, log it into MyFitnessPal, and then save it as a recipe. You then need to decide how many portions that whole batch is going to make. Let's say, for example, you make a whole chili and you're like, I'm going to serve that, and that's going to be 6 servings. You will then tell MyFitnessPal that you've logged this recipe and this recipe makes 6 servings. So when you eat it, you can select that recipe, track it already, and then just say it's 1 serving. And that is it. Super simple. That's all you need to do. The next question from that is, well, how do I get my 6 portions weighed perfectly equally? Like, do I now have to agonizingly put it into my Tupperware and weigh it out and make sure they're all perfect? You don't need to do that. If one portion is a bit bigger and the other one is a bit smaller, it doesn't matter. Your body doesn't know the difference of night and day. You always want to think of your calories as a weekly target rather than daily. It gives you flexibility. So it doesn't matter if you're not weighing it out perfectly. Eyeball it, get some rough portions out, but your body's not going to know a difference if you have one portion of that chili, which is 480 calories, and then the next day you have one which is 502. Your body's not going to know. It's about the weekly calorie deficit. So we're not trying to achieve lab level accuracy. We don't need to do that. We're just trying to get a good enough estimate that helps us manage your overall calorie intake. Weekly calories will still be the same. So your goal, weigh it out, track it as a recipe, and then put how many servings you've used in MyFitnessPal. Roughly divide it, eyeball it, just log it as servings, move on. That's it. Don't let tracking your batch cooking become another hurdle or another thing that's going to make nutrition feel more complicated. It really can be as easy as that. The emergency meal. This is something you guys always need to have. Everyone needs an emergency meal for the days where everything goes wrong. You know, you have those days where it's just a shit day from start to finish. Everything goes wrong, plans change, you end up doing things that you didn't expect to do, and you get home and there's no time to cook, or you've just had a crap day and your energy's really low and you don't want to cook. You need 2 to 3 meals you can make in under 10 minutes that you just keep on the go on the back burner. You need to have some stuff in the freezer you can grab, tin things that have long sell-by dates you can keep in the cupboard. An example of this, microwave rice, cooked chicken, frozen veg, sauce. The only thing that you would need to have in the cupboard is some pre-cooked chicken that you've bought in for the week. Everything else you can keep in the cupboard for ages or keep in the freezer. Another example, eggs, toast, beans, and then a portion of fruit afterwards. Easy. Another example, Greek yogurt, frozen berries, oats, protein powder. Apart from the yogurt, this is all stuff that can just live in your cupboard for ages. Absolutely zero cooking skills required, no takeaway necessary, but you need to have that emergency stuff. So get frozen fruit and frozen veg in. Make sure that you have some pre-cooked, ready to go protein sources like pre-cooked chicken, Greek yogurt. Make sure you've got oats in the cupboard. Make sure you've got beans in the cupboard. Make sure you're always buying in that sort of stuff. And then you'll be surprised that even on those days where motivation is low and you've had a hectic day and not been able to prep anything, you can still hit your goals. Often I see these big mistakes with meal prep. So prepping food that you actually don't want to eat, that you hate, things that you feel like you ought to be eating. For example, little old me when I was younger thinking, I now eat chicken, broccoli, and rice. I don't want to eat that. So the big mistake is prepping food that you don't actually want to eat, making everything way too complicated, thinking you now need to be a lab level scientist, creating these perfect recipes, trawling through Instagram for hours, finding these flowery recipes, cooking 7 different recipes for 3 different meals a day, so doing 21 portions of food every week, not accounting for social plans, not looking ahead and thinking how much food do I actually need to prep, thinking your meal prep needs to take hours. Hopefully, you guys can see from this call that it absolutely doesn't. And also having no emergency options, having no emergency backups in the cupboard or in the freezer. The best meal prep system is the one you'll actually use. So if we scroll back to the start of the call, the 3 levels, you might be someone that does full prep and that might work really well for you. And if that is, awesome. But if you're like me and you don't like cooking too much, you might be someone that tends to go for like level 2 or level 3. You might be an ingredient prepper or a convenience prepper. Doesn't matter. All 3 of them count. But you need to know which one works for you and be honest about that. If you're not going to do the whole batch cooking in the Tupperware from scratch, you don't have to. So, your meal prep formula, to kind of sum up, every week, look at your calendar. What does your week actually look like? Do you have meals out? How many meals do you need? Number 2, choose your meals. Don't plan 20 recipes. Have a couple of foolproof, safe recipes that you repeat often. Go shopping with a list. Don't spend hours in the shops. Get in, get out. It can take you like 20 minutes, half an hour if you really need it to, if you know exactly what you're getting. Prep what you can. 20 minutes counts, even if you've got not much time and you have to buy in all convenience foods, or you're only able to prep a couple of carb sources and a couple of protein sources, that still helps. And have emergency options. Be prepared for the days when life is messy. So, your challenge this week, before the end of today, I'd love you all to go ahead and choose 3 meals that you're going to have either for the tail end of this week or next week. Then go out, get your ingredients in, prep what you can, start to pre-track your food for 5 minutes in the morning, and then you can tell me how much of a game changer, how much easier this is. Don't wait until you're hungry to decide what you're eating on the next week. And to sum up, meal prep is not about being perfect. Absolutely not. And that would be very hypocritical of me to say. It's just about making the right choices easier. You don't need hours in the kitchen, fancy recipes that use every pot and pan. You don't need perfect organization. You don't need identical Tupperware meals. What you need is a plan that is realistic, that actually works for you. A few good, reliable meals that are predominantly whole foods that you can rotate through when you're losing weight. Food available at home, a backup for busy days. And this is all to make your future selves' life easier. That is everything I wanted to go through today, guys. Like I said, sum it up so you guys can all go out and enjoy the eclipse. Make your life as easy for yourselves as possible. You absolutely can do 20 to 30 minutes of meal prepping a week and you can still smash your goals. And nutrition doesn't have to be a total head case or a total source of confusion. I really hope this has helped to show you guys that you don't need to be doing hours and hours of meal prep. It can be really simple, super simple and super easy. I'm gonna let you guys all go. Any questions? If you guys want to meal prep but you feel stuck or you're confused or if anything doesn't make sense, message me and ask me. But that is everything for this week, guys. Go ahead and go and enjoy the eclipse. I will speak to you all very, very soon.